girl, add that layer on top of it. Yes. Oh my God.
Just understanding that it was bigger than us.
Yeah.
This separation and this divide that they try to make between Africa and everybody else in the diaspora, it's very, very strategic.
Yeah. How was that for you?
Yeah.
Navigating the Deep South and those familial relations?
I traveled to Africa, and I was a senior in high school. My sister took me. She was at that time was going to a country called the Gambia every year. And my senior year of high school, she took me with her. And that was really the first time that I felt truly beautiful.
Really?
Miss Tashara Parker.
You could just be your whole self.
I knew that I wanted to do something to have impact.
You actually testified before the Texas Senate.
We just want to exist.
Representation matters. You can make a difference every single day.
Show up authentically, loud and proud as the person that you truly are. We're still having a conversation.
Oh my God, I'm gonna get emotional.
The internet's favorite cousin.
I appreciate you showing up as your natural self.
This is a good question, Tashara.
Thanks for bringing it up. Nobody ever brings up.
You're pretty good at this.
We have a lot more coming up. I wanted to see in action.
We're so happy to have you on Loud and Clear.
Now we in Hawaii. Like, what? In Hawaii, filming a whole podcast episode. You know, Amy, when I first talked to you, I was like, I have this whole thing about being loud and what it means to be loud, because I feel like it's always frowned upon.
Absolutely.
Right? Everybody wants you to be quiet about whether it's your wins, your losses, and all the things.
Right.
And I think to end it on what people just heard, like, are you ready to be loud? What does it mean to be loud? Are you loud enough yet? Right?
Right.
I think you've been loud.
Ooh.
You've been loud.
Well, I'm Nigerian.
You are Nigerian.
So we definitely that.
Okay. And you know what's so crazy is when I first started looking into coming over into the island, looking into Hawaii, and then I found Afro Aloha, and I was like, oh my God.
Right.
Like, this is gold. And then to see who was behind it, I was like, oh, bet. Some kind of way we gonna link up, and here we are.
And here we are. And it's been a really beautiful transition. And I'm just so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
In Honolulu. I mean, you are such Dallas royalty, and like to be sitting down with you here in Pacific Heights, a really historic area.
Very.
We are so excited to just have you in Honolulu. And loud. You know, when I first saw your brand, Loud Women, Lead, Loud Beauty, all of it, and I was just like, you know, what does it mean to be loud?
Yeah. And you know, again, people get it misconstrued what it means to be loud, because everybody's like, oh, whether you're moving through corporate, whether you're moving through life, especially as women, especially as Black women, we're always told just do what you got to do and keep it pushing, right? Everybody don't need to know what's going on. And so loud for me means showing up. Loud for me means being authentically you, owning who you are, owning your identity. When you walk into a space, people pay attention. People take notice that you are there.
Come on.
And it's about owning your impact and what you strive to do in life, right? Living for a greater purpose. Loud has nothing to do with volume, although if you look in Webster's dictionary, it's going to have everything to do with it. But when I say loud, I mean showing up as who you are and showing up from a standpoint of the impact that you can have on others. That's what I mean by loud, and that's what I mean by owning your loud when you walk into a space. Because I feel like a lot of people don't want to do that.
No, I mean, because like you said, it's like really frowned upon, especially for Black women to be loud. There's always so much negative connotations around that.
You know
but speaking of impact, you've had such an impact, not just in Texas. You're originally from Houston, right? But you were an anchor in Dallas, but even before that, you were doing a lot of community work. And so your impact is just even extending beyond Dallas, and you've become our favorite internet cousin, you know. And to be honest, that's how I found out about you. You know, through your viral moment on you know, live TV. You wore your natural hair, and tell us a little bit about that, because that was like 2020, and then you had a viral moment that you really turned into a movement, being instrumental in the Crown Act. Can you tell us a little bit about the Crown Act?
Amplifying the Crown Act. For those who don't know, it's creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. That's what it stands for. And it's legislation to make sure that we can show up as who we are when it comes to our hair. There are a lot of rules and things and dress code policies, whether it's professionally, in schools, all over the place, that basically say you can't have your hair in locks. You can't wear your hair, let's say in Afro, like that's not considered a professional style.
Right.
And so when I showed up to work on morning TV in
And
Dallas,
shut it down.
Texas, go ahead, say shut it down.
Shut it down.
And I had a hairstyle very similar to the one that I'm wearing right now. And just think about it. Just if you can envision like looking at TV, right? We already don't see a whole lot of us. And if we do see a whole lot of us, a lot of us are just kind of fit into the role, right? Like what we think the role should be. And so when people saw me on TV, now I had a lot of people that was celebrating it, like, oh, you better do it, girl.
Right.
But then I had a lot of people that was like, on our TV? Absolutely not. Not you. What? That's a party hairstyle. That's unprofessional. And so when you talk about how I took a viral moment, that was the viral moment, showing up on TV with that hairstyle. But what went even crazier is I actually responded. So my TV station that I was working at the time was like, we know you probably gonna say something in so many words, right? Paraphrasing.
And this is a top TV station. This was a top TV
Very
station.
Very much. ABC.
Absolutely.
In Dallas. We can say it.
Yeah.
So they basically knew that I was gonna say something, whether it be on social media or what have you. And they gave me the opportunity to respond on TV, on air.
Live.
And so if a TV station allows you to do that and allow you to do it for like 5 minutes.
Oh, that's a lot of time. On live TV?
Do you hear me?
5 minutes?
Now look, if you don't know nothing about TV, just know if you get 5 minutes on TV, baby, you doing something. So they gave me that time to respond, and that went crazy, right? I ended up testifying multiple times on behalf of the Crown Act. We did get the Crown Act passed in Texas, September of 2023. That went into law in Texas, and so we're trying to get it passed nationally, right? So that's been a struggle, but it is what it is. But that's the moment, to your point, that ended up becoming like this loud movement. It led to what we call the bun ministry, and these are the buns that we're referring to. And basically like a hair ministry for people to just show up and be like, hey, like I'm here, like I'm gonna wear my hair like this and we good. Ain't nothing changed about the work that I do. I'm still showing up, I'm still doing my job, and I'm still doing my job as one of the best to ever do it. So please let it be known that, my hair may look a certain way that you're not familiar with, but this is something we do all day.
Exactly. Yeah. And these standards are so like, especially in corporate, the idea of what's professional, it's like inherently racist.
Yeah, come on, talk about it.
Just like off the rip it is. And so to see you on TV rocking your natural hair and just being a representation for so many of us who there's so many Black women, myself included, that at one point were in corporate. And so it is that kind of that corporate conditioning where maybe you have to code switch, maybe you have
What was it like for you, though, being in corporate? Because I see you now and what I know and who I know as Amy and Afro Aloha and all the things you're doing right now. But you told me you were in corporate for a minute. So I got to ask you, like, being in corporate, especially as it comes to professionalism and beauty standards, so to speak, identity, because you mentioned code switching. So can you talk about what was it like for you, like for real, being in corporate to where you are now? Yeah,
just navigating that was sort of tough because like I really feel like a lot of times when you would go, I'll give an example. You would go in there and just want to do your work the best you could and go home. And if you didn't hang out with people out the work or have drinks, happy hour with people out the work, they say, oh, she's standoffish.
Yes.
And it's like, no, I have other things to do outside of work. And so it was always these moments, I feel like, not just in presentation, but who you are just authentically of, always being scrutinized. And so eventually just really figuring out a way, like, how do I balance this? Because one, I'm Nigerian, and so I'm super proud about who I am. But two, I'm from the deep South. I was born and raised in Alabama. And so you can hear even in my vernacular, I mix a lot of it all together. Right. And so being able to go into corporate and not all the time feel like you could be your authentic self, I knew eventually that I wouldn't be there. Yeah. And maybe when we see people like you on, national TV kind of shifting the standard a little bit, it gives other people that's coming up behind us an opportunity to say, hey, you can still do really excellent work without having to, shrink who you are. And that's what I really love about Loud Women Lead and everything that you're doing with Loud Media and Loud and Clear Podcast, because it is very indicative of, hey, be who you are. We here. Be your full self and be your full uninterrupted self. Come on, uninterrupted. And so that's kind of where I am with it. And, it's funny because when I first moved to Honolulu, I moved here from Atlanta about, a little over 11 years ago. And when I moved here, I was working in luxury hospitality. And so I went, to get a new position at a local hotel. It was more so of a boutique hotel. And my hair were in braids at that time. And it was so beautiful, right? And I remember the HR manager being like, oh yeah, you're not going to be able to wear your hair like this.
Oh my goodness.
And I was,
it's
really
stunning. Yeah.
It really had shocked me because I said to myself, well, I'm in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's the island. I'm
Right.
seeing people walking around, you know, all different races with dreads and that, you know, hair locked up, all this kind of stuff. So it was really like to see that happening in Hawaii, and that was like my first experience in the workforce here.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, when I made it to the next round of the interviews, the GM, who was from the Deep South, was like, I love your hair.
Right.
So it really is like, this doesn't make sense. How the HR department is saying, hey, you basically said, hey, you're going to have to, you know, wear your hair straight.
Switch it up.
You switch it up. And I'm not even going to lie to you. I told him, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do that. I knew I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
But I told her, I said, okay, cool, I'll do that. But let me get to the next round. In my head, I'm like, let me get to the next round. You know? But that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Is like, now I don't have to do that. You know, it's like I'm gonna wear my hair how I'm gonna wear it.
Come on with it.
You know,
I'm
gonna wear it how I'm gonna wear it. You know? Like if people feel
and
a
I
way
love
about it.
the cowboy hat too, the cowgirl hat. I got a cowgirl hat, okay, with the whole Afro Aloha on there. Because again, I'm from Texas. You have some Texas ties. You went to UTS, graduated from UTSA.
I did.
Let me be very clear on that. So you do have some Texas ties there. So I feel like being from the Deep South, but also having the Texas ties and then being here, like that had just sells the whole situation.
Oh, thank you. And I love it. You know, I work with a local artist here. Everything's handmade. And so they pretty much use a burning technique to do the sides and all of that. But that's, you know, that's one of the ways I feel like I'm able to be a steward while I'm in Hawaii. Just really like champion a lot of the local businesses that I work with, a lot of local organizations, and just trying ways to be steward of the space that we occupy while we're here in Hawaii.
I got to ask you that because, you know, I've had my share of interactions with individuals that are here of all different types of races. I had a chance to go and visit the Bishop Museum, read a lot about the history.
Yeah.
And then when I look at some of the history, I'm like, boy, America ought to be ashamed of themselves. That's a doggone mess.
Crazy.
Okay. And so I just think about that, and I wonder, when you say being stewards of the space that we occupy, how are you making sure that you pay respect, right, to the natives of this land, right, while also still amplifying the work of Black people that are here in this space?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just gratitude of just being here on this land, right? But also just being sympathetic and empathetic, because a lot of our stories and a lot of our culture is very similar, in a lot of ways. And so basically understanding where you are and understanding, like, if we work together, we really do have a common enemy. That's the way I look at it. It's like,
talk about
we're anti-establishment. We're you know, anti-colonialism. We're anti all of those things. And so a lot of times they try to pit us against each other. And so for me, it's really about appreciating who I am. I'm gonna prioritize my culture. But I can also use my own experiences to amplify the voices of other marginalized communities. And so that's how I do it. You know, whether just really respecting the land, respecting the culture, respecting the people. But I ain't gonna let nobody play with me neither, though.
That part. Do you hear me?
I ain't gonna let nobody play with me neither, though.
I always tell people, even when loud women lead, I always be like,
I lead with love and respect, but I ain't gonna let nobody play with me.
No, for real, because people will try to play in your face. And that's what we're not gonna do. I tell people all the time when loud women lead that when they say, well, can other people be a part of it? Can other people do, you know, the things that y'all are doing to be a part? I'm like, absolutely. But make sure you know and understand and respect that I have an affinity to Black women. And that's who I'm going to continue to amplify in the work that I'm doing. However, it wasn't an organization that was solely meant for us, but I know the struggles of a lot of us. And I want to make sure that we feel safe in the space that I am creating. I will never create a space that wasn't solely built so that we can continue to uplift each other. I want all of us to coexist and to coexist well. But at the same time, we do have to remember that there are certain struggles that we have been forced to be a part of that we don't want to continue. And so when I talk about loud women lead, I'm telling women that they can come in and you can be loud about all the stuff that you believe in, right? And all the stuff that is relevant to the work that you do. Speaking of work that you do, Afro Aloha.
Oh, Afro Aloha.
Okay, so talk about how it started and then evolved into the podcast and just many different elements of it, because I think a lot of people, when they think about Hawaii, like I'm
Hawaii.
new. Look, let me get it together. But when they think about the island, I didn't know that we had a whole lot of Black folks here. I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you, okay? And so to meet all the people that are here, all the team that's behind the scenes, helping put this production on, and just to be surrounded by so many beautiful people that's on this island. So when I hear and see Afro Aloha, I'm like, oh my God, you bringing us together. So tell me about the organization, how it started, what you wanted to get out of it.
Yeah, so I initially started it in 2020, and it was originally called Black Bazaar Honolulu. And what I was trying to do by doing that is bring some of the civilian community together, some of the military community together, because I had friends that were military, I had friends that were civilian. And for me, coming here from Atlanta as a civilian, it was very difficult to meet other Black people at that time. And so my goal really was like, how do we form a more cohesive community, not just on Oahu, but the neighboring islands as well. So it originally started out as me doing, private dinners where we could have cultural conversations, our place here in Hawaii, how we ended up here. And then it kind of, formatted and transitioned into really amplifying business owners. And so, I hosted a penthouse pop-up in 2020, a week before COVID. And so we had a little over 200 people that arrived at that event. And the next week, COVID shut it down. And so, but I saw that people were looking for community the same the same way I was. Because we get out here sometimes and it kind of speaks to what you're talking about. It's like this loud impact. We've been kind of conditioned to like shrink ourselves. And so we come out here and we hide off in pockets. We don't want to get in anybody's way. We don't want to step on any toes. And we
don't want to cause too much noise.
Exactly. And so that's what was happening. It wasn't that like we had never been here. We've been here for hundreds of years, But I did really think that it needed to be basically a call to action. People needed community, especially during 2020 with, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. 2020 was just a really, really, really challenging time. And so what I did was just basically transition into online programming where we could bring in clinical psychologists, we could bring in wellness instructors, all of that, and just continue to be in community, but virtually. And then when outside opened back up, it was like a family reunion. It was a family reunion.
I love it. I love it.
And so we started, then a couple years went by and I rebranded to Afro Aloha, and I really wanted to find ways to share more stories. I was meeting so many incredible people within our community, but also across communities. And so the Afro Aloha podcast, I created that as a way to house this information and these stories. And so it's been, I think we're about 12 episodes in now. And to be honest with you, I had never done anything like that before. So I wasn't, I didn't have a background as far as, podcast production or anything like that. But I said it's going to be really important for us to narrate our own stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to be keepers of our own history. Otherwise, it'll get lost.
Especially here.
Lost in a shuffle. And they have experienced more than enough of their own trials, and by they, I mean the native people of this land. To get to this point. And had I not been to the Bishop Museum to really, it's one thing to go look on Google and search and try to learn the history of what went down here, but also to just go and search on the history, of all the individuals and what they contributed to this land.
Absolutely.
Right. And ultimately we know what went down. But one of the things too that I wanted to ask you about, like we talked a lot about Black beauty and being in corporate and what that looks like for us when it comes to identity. Not just moving here, but you raised in the Deep South.
In the Deep South.
Right? Obviously, you came here later on, but what was it like growing up? I feel like oftentimes, especially in the Deep South, when it comes to navigating lines of who your family wants you to be with, it ain't all welcoming like people try to paint it out to be all the time.
No.
So how was that for you navigating the Deep South and those familial relations?
Absolutely. That's a really good question, because I was navigating growing up in the Deep South, but also growing up in a Nigerian household.
Oh, girl, add that layer on top of it. Yes. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you're really trying to figure out not only who you are culturally from a
Yes.
Nigerian aspect, but also how you fit in as a Black American.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm Nigerian American.
Yeah.
And so I was navigating both sides. And when you're in the Bible Belt like that.
Come on.
Ooh, that Bible Belt something else. The Bible thumpers now. Now, you know,
and they be talking about don't judge, but I'm like, baby, you judging people every day.
now, you know, I'm a God-fearing person, but, you know, at the same time, you know, sometimes when you're in the Deep South, people can use scripture, flip it to basically.
It's up for interpretation with them.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And so for me, it really became a thing of just understanding that it was bigger than us.
Yeah.
This separation and this divide that they try to make between Africa and everybody else in the diaspora, it's very, very strategic.
Yeah.
And so as a kid, it's hard to understand that. So, you know, you might be, you know, your mama is telling you your skin is beautiful, but as a kid, that's not what people are saying. And that's not what the TV is saying.
Right. Correct. Talk about
it.
And especially as a dark-skinned woman.
Exactly. So the radio isn't saying that.
Right.
Publications aren't saying that. And television isn't saying that. And I'll say for me, you know, my mom did a very good job as far as really instilling in us the importance and the beauty of our skin and our culture. However, I didn't really feel it until I traveled to Africa. And I was a senior in high school. My sister took me, she was at that time was going to a country called the Gambia every year. And my senior year of high school, she took me with her. And that was really the first time that I felt truly beautiful.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Even though I grew up in the Deep South in predominantly Black neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It just hit different.
Yeah.
When I landed in Africa, I saw people that really looked like me, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just a different kind of ancestral kind of aspect that hit for me.
That's
and so
good.
after I left there, I was like, oh yeah, nobody ain't gonna tell me my black ain't beautiful. I'm cold.
I love that. And I love what you mentioned earlier about, like, even in the media, right?
Yeah.
Because people often say, oh, it seems like a lot more Black people are being on TV. But I'm like, when you look at the people that are being selected for some of these roles, it's easy for me to say, oh, I do see it changing 100%. But at the same time, they're being very selective on who they put in front of these cameras, right? The look of that person, how they talk, how they sound.
Maybe they're ambiguous. Maybe they're palatable.
Come
all those things.
And they're easily digestible. I'm not easily digestible for a lot of people, right? Yeah. And I love that one quote I see online. It's like, look, you gonna choke trying to figure me out. Do you hear me?
Okay.
And so I think that it's beautiful to see that, you know, more and more people are starting to look a lot more like us in the media. Yeah. But don't you dare for 1 second think that it's the norm, because it is not the norm. Yeah. So when you see somebody that looks like me or looks like you or that looks, you know, that just has like those strong Black features. There's so many different types of us. We know that, but all of us ain't never been accepted, right? Some of us was out in the fields. You hear me? Some of us couldn't go in the house.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so I think I might have been out in the fields back in the day.
I definitely
Do you hear me? Okay? Yeah. And so I think we need to continue to push that narrative. And so when I talk all the time about being loud, to see you here doing what you're doing, to know you were born in the Deep South, and to continue to push this work, that's what I mean. Like, we got to continue to change the narrative. We got to continue to share our stories. We got to continue to allow us to tell our stories.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. And so, like, for me, it's just like, you know, and then you wrap in, like, there's so many identities that are happening.
Correct.
Like, for me, you know, Nigerian, American, you know, I'm also queer. And so wrapping all of that into kind of a gumbo or something, it's like, you know, when I think of Afro Aloha, like me showing up the way that I show up, my full self, it really does allow people to show up the same way, whatever that may look like. You know what I mean? That's the hope, right? Is I'm loud out here like this because I'm hoping that it can encourage people to show up in their fullest, authentic self.
But you just started getting in front of the camera.
Yeah,
what was that transition like? Because this wasn't always a thing for you, because you said you got a love-hate relationship with that old social media.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so
everybody knows that about me.
You just started getting in front of the camera. What was it like to be loud in that way? You were already loud, air quotes, behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
But what was it like to be loud, getting in front of the camera and kind of trying to switch it up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it just to be honest, it still gives me, social media. I think that sometimes it's not good for my nervous system.
Sure. Talk about it.
Before entrepreneurship, like I had a relationship with social media that was very just like expressive of whatever I wanted to share, I shared, that kind of thing. But I think when the pressure came of entrepreneurship and people saying you have to, in order for you to be successful, you have to have social media. And I didn't want to be like a slave to that.
Ooh.
Because like I'm still very old school in a sense of like I like to do this.
Absolutely.
I like to, hey, call me, pull up on me.
Yeah, you text me, I'd be like, girl, if you don't call me.
Yeah. I'm still like that. So it was a very I think, trying to get in front of the camera, my anxiety.
Yeah.
I had never really experienced anxiety before entrepreneurship. Like I didn't really, I probably did, but just didn't know.
And maybe not at that level.
Not at that level.
Right.
And so with transitioning in front of the camera, it was just like, oh man, like I'd rather just people know me for not the bells and whistles. I just want them to know me for the work. Like, but I had to get out of that too because my value is not based on the work that I put out.
Come on.
And last year
we've always been commodified.
Okay. So last year was like the first year that I really was like, you know what? I'm sit my ass down. I'm a rest.
Yeah.
And rest is it felt so revolutionary for me.
Don't it feel good?
It does.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need restoration, and if people can't understand that, then they ain't for me.
Rest is for restoration. Shout out to the NAP ministry, by the way. I
love
the work.
them.
I love the work that the NAP
ministry
is doing.
Like, lay your ass down.
Yeah.
Lay your ass down.
And she'll get us right together talking about posting on social media. One of the things that I was going to say too, my word for this year is alignment, right?
Yeah.
Like everything I do, I want it to be in alignment. And you talked about rest. And at the beginning of the year, everybody like, no, I'm about to bust it out on social media. I'm about to do this, do that, da-da-da. We're going to do all this stuff. And so in my newsletter, what I've been telling people is to ease into the year. I saw one of your posts. That was eased out of the year.
I eased out of the year.
When I saw that, I say, this is what I mean when I say alignment, right? Like for real, like, because I hadn't even seen your post at first, right? Until I started researching going up until today.
Right.
And I saw that and I'm like, oh, yes.
Right.
And so you eased out of last year, the ending of the year, and I eased into 2025 because I was very intentional about what I wanted to do with the space that I occupy.
Sure.
And also wanted to make sure that we ain't got to be go, go, go all the time. Sometimes, like you said, we need that rest to restore ourselves and continue moving with intention into what we're doing. Yeah. And so that's what alignment came for me, like as far as my word of the day. I was like, look, when I sent my newsletter, I was like, look, we on island time, okay? We rolling out, okay? Yeah. I spent my whole first almost 2 weeks of the new year on island.
Yeah.
And so I just want people to know that like rest and restoration is so important because to your point earlier, you don't want to be known just for all the work, just for the work that you're putting out on social media, but for the work that you're doing.
Exactly.
Right. And so I feel like oftentimes the only way that people find value in us is when they can commodify either us or the work that we're doing for them or what benefit we are to them. And that's the part that bothers me. And so I love that we're being more intentional with our time and intentional with the space that we occupy because it's going to be on us at the end of the day to make sure that we're not being taken advantage of.
And intentional about who we work with.
Ooh.
Right? Because that grind mentality, it really is us just buying into the system.
Absolutely.
The very capitalistic system.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy for any of us.
Yeah.
And for me, I just said, you know what? I've done enough. And I don't always have to attach my, worth. And people can attach my worth however they want to attach it. But as far as for me, just me merely existing.
Come on.
is enough.
More than
me
enough.
Showing up like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is enough.
It's
me smelling the trees, smelling the flowers, taking a walk.
Yeah.
You know, just being more kind to myself, be more gentle to myself.
How have you navigated that though, from a standpoint of like relationships with people you work with, just with individuals that we run into? Because I feel like a lot of people have that kind of capitalism mindset, to where it's always like, what's going to be the benefit to me kind of thing. And so, again, when I tell you I'm walking in alignment this year, I truly mean it. Like I saw, we were talking earlier off camera, when we was talking about this one kid that turned down some money. He was like, all money ain't good money.
Yeah.
And that's so true. So when you talk about making sure that you're working with the right people, how do you deal with those relationships when you see like, let me go ahead and step back from that one?
Yeah, it's really tricky because, I mean, it used to be really tricky because saying no to people, it was seen, you know, as, oh, you hating, or you don't want to work with us, or something like that. And really it was for me just being like, it's not necessarily a no forever. It's just a no for me right now.
Absolutely.
Because it's not good for my nervous system.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times, like,
you kind of skirted past this, but I want to say it real quick. When you say it was a no because your nervous system was reacting a certain way, people need to hear that, and people need to understand that, because a lot of times your body will tell you something doesn't feel right before your mind even picks up on it.
Exactly.
And so if your nervous system is feeling a certain kind of way and you getting a certain feeling in your stomach rising up, you need to be like, okay, let me back off from that. It needs to be smooth and easy. All day, we've been here several hours.
Right.
It's been smooth and easy.
Smooth and easy.
And that's how it should feel.
And that's how it should feel.
Yeah.
Like, it should not feel forced. It should not make me anxious. It should, you know, and so for me, like, really understanding, like, no is a complete sentence.
Absolutely.
And it took me a really long time because I was operating from a space of like, I'm such a community person. And I was operating from a space of thinking that if I say yes to everything, then I'm showing up for my community and I'm showing up for everybody the best way possible.
Yeah.
But the reality is I have to say no.
Yeah.
I have to say no because it does not serve me and it does not serve them. And it overall, collectively, it does not serve the community the best way possible if I'm stretched thin.
I was about to say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And so if you deplete yourself to where you ain't got nothing else to pour, your cup running dry, and everybody else, you going to get the dry version of me.
And they going to watch you now.
And they going, absolutely. They going to watch you drown in your dry cup and still try to pour from that dry cup
I'm
daily.
I
and
had
so
to learn
that's
that the
why
hard way.
we have to learn ourselves that when we get to that point. I made a post not too long ago. It was like I did over 500 and some hours of free labor, community service, volunteer hours last year. And I love, to your point, community, giving back. But sometimes, again, when it comes to saying no and you know you stretched thin, you pouring from an empty cup. So I got to a point where I was saying no to everything because I was stretched so thin. And so now, again, walking in alignment, I'm trying to make sure that as I set up my year, that I'm only saying yes to the things that not only serve whatever organization it is, but that also serve me. Because I do really, really good work in what I do, and I get paid really, really well for the work that I do.
You're phenomenal.
And so thank you. And so I need people to understand that. And honestly, when people start doing all the stuff that they do and trying to use you for whatever it is for free, then they start to deplete the value of who you are.
Yeah.
Right? When you show up in that space. Now, there's one thing to do an exchange of whatever. Right. That's beautiful, right? Mutually beneficial.
Of course.
But when all I'm doing is showing up and doing everything you say do, I feel like I'm a little puppy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I need people to understand that there's value in who we are, just as who we are, and treat us that way.
Yeah, and pay Black women.
Pay Black women.
You know, and that's the thing. And so like for me, I really had to learn that the hardest way, because your body gonna tell you, like
your
you said.
body is gonna tell you,
and it's gonna lay your ass down. It's gonna lay your ass down. For real.
It's gonna say, baby, if you don't get somewhere and sit down. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. and so like, and some, even with me, some of the consulting work that I was doing, like even people just call, hey, let me pick your brain. Like even that alone. Is still work.
It's mentally draining too. If everybody picking your brain.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if companies are paying me to consult.
Come on.
Then it's like, this is going to save you time. This is going to save you money, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to really find ways to redefine what we think community is.
Oh, yeah.
And what we think support looks like.
Yeah.
Because support can look like so many different things
Yeah.
at different times along our journey.
Yeah.
And so I'm really just trying to redefine what that means for me. And me stepping away last year gave me a very
clarity.
Exactly.
I saw a post by this young lady. Her name is Morgan Devon. She has a media company too, Blavity Media Company.
Yeah,
and so,
I know Blavity.
And so Morgan made a post, and she was just like, and I don't know if it was a post, if it was on her story. Anyway, she was just like, look, Black people always feel like they got to go and volunteer their time for community service. She's like, don't start out another nonprofit because y'all ain't making no money starting out. Those were her exact words. But basically, she was like, stop doing that because you're out here like trying to like get, rob Peter to pay Paul and trying to raise all this money for a nonprofit. And she's like, no, like people will pay you for the work that you're doing. You ain't got to just feel like in our mind that we have to do a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And I know I had that mentality when I started originally Loud Women Lead. Now we have, of course, attached to our LLC as well as the philanthropic work that we do through the organization. But that's only a piece of it, right?
Yeah.
But originally that was my mindset. Like, okay, how can I give back? And she like,
Right.
Like that ain't the only way that you can give back. You can give back, but you can also get paid for the money that you should be getting while giving back.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
I think we got to really come to grips with making sure that people value our worth, but that starts with us.
That starts with us.
Because they ain't going to change no way they feel about it.
Yeah. And, I mean, for me, Afro Aloha is a for-profit company.
Period. Say that again. And every other business I started is for profit.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, because the revolution, it got to be financed. You know what I mean? Like, we can't just be out here just, but there's other ways,
to give back.
There's other ways to give back, and sometimes, like even for me, like with some of the events, I may take a percentage of that,
absolutely,
and donate that to local organizations that are pushing Hawaii forward.
Yeah,
right. That's not something we have to get on the podcast and talk about. They know who they are.
Sure.
Right. And so I think everybody have to find a way to really sew back into something that can be an ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And so that's been
keyword ecosystem.
Yeah, that's been my whole thing of just like, okay, we feed into something, and it comes back around. And then other people enter and it all comes back around. And so there can be enough for everybody, and so entrepreneurship has been really, really, really tough for me, It really has.
And this is new for me, so I get to mine, but yes.
Yeah, I think the toughest part is when you are drowning, you are literally drowning in front of an audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like on stage,
Yeah.
And people, they don't know how to help for a number of reasons, because I think with Black women specifically, they're automatically like, y'all strong.
You gonna get over it.
Y'all gonna figure it out. Y'all in the, no, I need help. Like, hold up.
Oh my God.
Hold up.
It's so sad.
It really is.
Like we can laugh about it, but it's really sad
No, it
because I've
is.
been in some rough moments.
Yeah.
And people like, oh, she'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh, no, like you got the resource. Can you help me with this?
Yeah, and then like that brings me to my next thing of like the mentorship that there's a few things in entrepreneurship I feel like are missing for us. One, capital.
Yeah.
Right. Two, you might not have business mentors.
Yeah.
And so, you're spinning your wheels a lot to try to figure things out, something that could have saved you a lot of time if you had really that mentorship. And so, and then the third thing is people are looking from the outside saying, well, they look like they doing fine.
Right.
So we don't need to,
right.
We don't need to do nothing. They got it. They, and it's just like, I don't think that that's the best way. I think we can always figure out how we can be of service. And so my three focal points have been relationships, purpose, and service.
Absolutely.
And within that, that's where the community happens. Community is not just giving.
It's the ecosystem, like you said. Exactly. It should be in a circular motion, 360. what to you has been some of the toughest things? And I'll tell you about like my lessons in business, right? So I've been in corporate for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I just stepped out into entrepreneurship last July 2024. And the community piece probably has been the toughest.
Same.
You know, I'm in certain groups and things like that where you meet up, you network and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think we have the community like other groups of people have the community.
Yeah,
and not only that, you said like access to capital, right? No matter how many grant applications I filled out, like that takes a lot of time, right? I can't go ask Uncle so-and-so for, you know, $100K to get this going, or $50K,
seed
whatever.
Money. Some of them have seed money,
you
just
know what
off
I'm saying?
the rip.
Just off the rip, no problem, right?
Yeah.
People sewing into their businesses and they ain't got to do nothing but send a quick text message.
Yes.
And so I think we just have to be very clear on the relationships, to your point, that we're forming with individuals. And also be unafraid to ask. Like sometimes I don't think we ask people enough for what we want.
Sometimes we don't know how to ask.
And we don't
even know what we need.
We don't even know what we need. But that's where the community part comes
in, right?
Exactly. Making sure that we're forming those relationships to create the communities, which I feel like you're doing with Afro Aloha.
Yeah, for sure.
Like putting businesses on there where somebody like me who's coming from the States, who wants to spend more time in Hawaii on the island, right? Being able to connect with those Black businesses, because in Texas, I'm always looking for Black businesses.
Sure.
I want to spend my money with Black businesses, right? I want to hire Black businesses to do the work that I do. So coming here and knowing that you have this group of folks that are already kind of, you know, in so many words, vetted through your platform, right?
Correct.
And you can speak to what they're doing for their communities. And then, of course, hiring Native people of the land to also be a part of it. But I just think it's beautiful to make sure that we're continuing to create those communities. Because, again, as I always mention, it's going to be on us to make sure this stuff continues to move forward. And what I'm looking to do as I spend more time on the island is continue to bring people together in ways that can continue to empower and uplift all of us, right? Because I think oftentimes, you know, when we get together, whether it's about business or whatever the case may be, we ain't uplifting each other enough. And we got to keep doing that.
Right.
And so with Loud Women Lead, Loud and Clear Media, I just hope that we continue to form a bond to where people understand that they see community when they see us above anything else.
Above anything else. And sometimes like people are so, you know, I don't want to use the word intimidated, but it's almost like operating from a place of lack. So it's like, oh, if I see this person moving forward, then that means it stifles my growth.
Yes.
And my thing has always been, you know, iron really sharpens iron. And so if we do this thing together somehow,
we're going to do this thing.
We're going to do it. And we can elevate together. So that's always been sort of my approach. And so I'm stoked that we are even able to do this and be able to utilize our platform in a way, and our skills and our, you know, resources or whatever have you, in a way that is inspiring to not just people in the Pacific, but people, you know, in the continental U.S. and globally.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's just important that we continue to stick together and show people that two Black women who are doing things in their own ways and are doing their best to excel at whatever that thing is that we are individually doing, that you can come together and you can still empower, uplift, support and amplify the work of somebody else. Because a lot of times people look at your stuff, whether it's online, on social media or whatever, and they'll be like, well, I can't afford to do 1, 2, 3. You can afford to do a lot if you're looking at your phone. You can go comment.
You can go comment, like, share, send it to a friend.
Do you hear me?
All of that.
There are a lot of ways. And if you really support that person and support the work that they're doing, we see the great work that you are doing. We see the great work that I'm doing. If you really support that person, whether it be financially or not, you can still figure out a way to amplify the work that they're doing. That's easy.
That's easy.
Anybody can do that.
Anybody can do that. Because they on there lurking anyway. They on there watching now. I know y'all on there watching. So when this drop, we need y'all to like, comment, share, all of that.
Subscribe on YouTube. Do all the things. Okay.
Yeah, do all that.
It's
like,
necessary
show up
work
for your people in 2025. Like, really show up for your people, because that, you know, that we at a space now. I feel like social media has really distracted us in a lot of ways and disconnected us from what community can be. But at the same time, it serves as a facilitator of these relationships and communication and connection. But it's not a replacement.
No.
It's not a replacement. And so we have to really hone in on how to utilize balanced social media, but also still showing up for people.
I think
in person.
I think as we move fully into 2025, part of the work that we're going to have to do, and that y'all are going to have to do as well, okay? Part of the work that we're going to have to do is make sure that we're doing more like what they say on the internet, IRL, in real life events, okay? Because I think that's what really helps people get to know each other. I'll never forget like doing interviews and stuff like that on Zoom. I'm like, but it's something different when we just sitting right here. Well, I can touch you, I can lay a hand on you.
And when I can smell that shea butter.
Come on, you know, because we gotta stay moisturized. We gotta stay moisturized, okay? But it's something different.
Absolutely.
And I think as we use the internet, social media as a facilitator of the work that we're doing, it's a great tool, but we got to use it to our advantage. And y'all also need to pay attention to what's going on, because depending on when we release this, I saw recently that Meta just rolled back its DEI policies effective immediately. And what that means for us is that as these social media platforms are continuing to play in our face and to show us exactly who they are, we're going to have to make sure that we're creating these communities off of that social media
100%.
site, building our newsletters, building our external resources, building our platforms for community, whether it be online or what have you, and making sure that it's off of these social media sites, because they didn't already showed us who they are. Once the current administration, I ain't going to get too deep, but once the current administration gets into place, everybody's trying to make sure that they can kind of cozy up to what's going on, because why on earth would you roll back your full policies? And that's why I rock so hard for Costco, by the way.
Hey,
shout out to Costco. They ain't sponsoring this episode, but they can.
They can.
Y'all doing enough, though. I'm going to just say that. But shout out to them saying, like, yo, we going to keep pushing against this.
That's right.
And we're going to let y'all know that we pushing against this. So
it was all performative. A lot of the stuff in 2020. Yeah, that's what it was.
With them little black boxes and stuff.
On Instagram, jumping the black boxes.
Ain't did nothing since. Please.
And then, and you know what? Within a year.
Yeah.
I mean, a large percentage of companies had already rolled back their DEI
but they did it quietly.
They did it quietly.
But now with what's happening, they're like, oh, we can be open about it. We can be loud about it, but you're being loud for the wrong reasons. They're doing it out in the open.
But we also have to be very mindful about how we put out so much of our genius on these platforms.
Baby, pay me for my genius.
Just all nilly-willy. It's because
they own it. People don't realize that anytime you put something on these social media sites, there are clauses and things like that. They don't fully own it, but they always have access to it because you uploaded it to their platform. Right? So whatever is up there, they have access to it. You need to own your stuff and make sure that you're being compensated for the work and your genius that you're putting out, because they don't deserve y'all.
Yeah, I mean, because social media, essentially, this is what I always say, social media wouldn't be nothing without Black creators.
Come on. Did you see the documentary on Black Twitter? Go Google it. Go look it up.
Yeah,
it's
but
bomb.
it's just like
bomb.
without Black creators on social media, like these platforms would all plummet. Yeah, they really would.
All these little viral dances and this and that and the third. Who you think came up
exactly?
With that?
But it don't be the Black creators that go viral.
Baby,
and get the
I'll never
bag.
forget when that lady, this was a white lady. She ended up doing some kind of dance. It was about 3 or 4 years ago, and she went on national TV because she was being interviewed by a talk show host, and she did the little viral dance. And all them creators, boy, they cut up on her. They said, "I know you didn't go on there and do so and so creator dance, knowing that wasn't yours."
Come on.
So you're right, but we ain't the ones being amplified for the work that we're doing.
That's
why I do love this generation, though. I will say that
they're gonna push back
about this generation, because this generation will say, "Oh, make sure you tag John Doe who created that," you know, and they be in your comments like, so and so created that." Absolutely,
I love
they
it.
did that,
I love
right?
it.
And they gonna call you out, and I love it.
Yeah, same. So yeah, as social media, we just I've been really checking out this. Have you ever heard of fan base?
Yes,
it's like
and Patreon and all them people.
Yes. So fan base, I'm
Black
really,
owned,
Black owned, and I'm almost curious to see, like, they've been raising capital. Money, capital or whatnot, but I love the concept because it's like we truly could just transition.
If people would pay attention.
Yeah, we could just transition all of our stuff to these other platforms, and at least you would have some kind of ownership.
Yeah.
in it is the way that I understand fan base to be.
Yeah.
I need to do a little bit more research, but that's how I understand it to be, is essentially you have some sort of ownership, you coming in as a shareholder or something.
Right. And he said, the guy, I can't think of his name to save my life right now.
Isaac.
What is it?
Isaac
what?
Hayes, ain't it?
Is it Isaac Hayes?
Yeah, I think it's that.
Okay.
It's like Isaac Hayes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's
and so when I think about what he's trying to do, one of the things that he has on his bio is saying that you won't have to worry about the algorithms and this and that and the third. Basically, whoever is following you and your people, they gonna always see your stuff. And if we don't pay attention to what's happening and how these algorithms continue to suppress our content, right? No matter what we're doing to try to get it out there to people, they want you to pay to get your content. It's clear as day what they're doing.
Yeah.
They reel you in, give it to you for free. Ain't nothing ever free in real life. Let's be real. They give it to you for free for a little while, and then once you get hooked, they like, oh, bet. So now we're gonna suppress it.
Yeah, we're gonna suppress
tell you to pay to boost it.
Yep.
And then maybe
because it's a business,
a fraction of your people might see it.
Right.
So you need to be taking your people, as Lovey Ajayi always says. You need to be taking your people away from these platforms and making sure you're building community outside of them. I mentioned my newsletter earlier.
Yeah, same.
I use that newsletter
Absolutely.
like it ain't nobody's business. And I get more people responding to that than I can do on social media
100%.
any day. And I ain't got to work hard for that, right?
100%.
You know, I put work into it, but what I'm saying is them your people.
Them your
and
people.
they going to follow you. So you need to make sure you're transitioning. That's for everybody who on social media or running any kind of business that they feel like needs to be on social media. Get your newsletter. Get your blog, whatever it is, and start really transitioning your people. I ain't saying it's going to happen quickly, but y'all see what they're trying to do on social media. It's clear as day.
Yeah, and it's a business at the end of the day, because like it really makes sense. Like if it's a business and if you have 1 million followers, right? Why would I let all your 1 million followers see whatever it is you selling or your content? Because then the big corporations, they're not going to pay us, the platform, to market. They would just go straight to you.
Absolutely.
The corporations would just go straight to you.
Which is what they're trying to do, because a lot of corporations was going to the influencers or the people who had these big pages or the audiences that they were looking for. They were going straight to them. But now social media is like, oh no, y'all thought y'all was smart making all that money with them influencers. But y'all gonna have to pay us for that. Yeah.
So how can, you have Loud and Clear podcast.
Yep.
You have your recent endeavor, Loud Beauty.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely incredible, which I'm wearing
you
today.
Are. I love it. She's wearing a little candy yams.
Yes, I love it.
I love it.
And then you have Loud Media and Loud Women Lead.
Yes.
So what is the best way for people to support what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say the best way is just to make sure that if you see, one, you can follow me at Tashara Parker.
Okay.
And if you see the work that we're posting, everything at Tashara Parker has all of my links in my bio. Aside from that, TasharaParker.com also has all of the links, so people can find out and support the work there. The biggest thing is, as I'm continuing to build the show, Loud and Clear, which, of course, this is going to be our Afro Aloha Loud and Clear crossover episode.
This is the first time we've ever done anything like this.
First time ever.
Aloha.
Right.
And for Loud and Clear?
Oh, and for Loud and Clear.
Oh, yeah, this is the first time I've ever done like a crossover episode.
You said you're about 12 episodes or so in. We're only about 4 or 5 episodes in. So this is the first time.
Dope.
So it's going to always be here, right?
I love it.
So make sure they support that, right? Share all the clips that you'll see us sharing, the pictures, all that good stuff, because I really think that helps to push the narrative and really helps to push the work that we're doing. Support Loud Beauty Brand, loudbeautybrand.com. If you want to get some lipsticks, whether it's for you, your family, or what have you, period. We do a little something. And so, just support the work. And I mean, even with Afro Aloha, I know you got the Afro Aloha page and the podcast page. How can they support you?
Absolutely. So Afro Aloha on Instagram, Afro Aloha Podcast to follow the podcast. The podcast is streaming on Spotify, Apple, all of wherever you get your podcasts. This 2025, we're going to be refocusing on our memberships we can get back intimate of how we used to be.
Yep.
I think over the past year and a half, with the larger festivals and signature events, it became something for the public to access. And I think that was a really beautiful thing, right? However, we really built it from deep connection with our memberships. And so we're going to really refocus and relaunch our membership. Yeah, getting back to this. Yeah. You know, in those intimate spaces. Another way, so if you're on island and would love to be a member, please go to the website, afroaloha.com. We also have our merchandise.
Can I just say real quick, even if you're not on island and you want to support the work that she's doing, she was telling me briefly when we went on a little mini cruise earlier this
on the Vita Mia.
To say it one more time. Vita Mia. We went on a cruise, which shout out to Vita Mia. Thank y'all so much. Y'all were beautiful. Absolutely enjoyed myself. When we went on that and you were talking about how there are people that are still members because when they moved here, right, or while they were here, you created the community that they needed in that space. So even if you're not on the island, it's certainly something to support. And I do want to say that we're also launching our community soon. So be on the lookout for that on TasharaParker.com.
Love it.
Merch.
Yeah.
Come on,
so we got merch. You know, we have our Afro Aloha tees as well as, you know, our Afro Aloha cowboy flare brims. All of it is handmade. And so, and another way to support is just, you know, telling a friend about Afro Aloha. You know, going to the website, subscribing to the website so you can get our newsletter, see what we're doing in the community, but also production-wise, and just amplifying voices, sharing more stories. I hope to be working with Tashara a lot more as she spends more time in Hawaii. And really, what we're also going to be doing is partnering and collaborating with more people like yourself to not just, one, increase the visibility of what Afro Aloha is doing, but being able to amplify one another.
Cross platforms,
exactly. So we really want to work with organizations that we feel like are in alignment and individuals that are in alignment. So if you're, you know, interested in working or collaborating or partnering with Afro Aloha in any kind of way, please just reach out to us. And this year we also will be raising capital. So if you would like, if you would like to invest, we're building out different investment structures with, you know, a firm that we'll be working with. And so there's going to be a lot of ways for you to support Afro Aloha from a level of just sharing the content or a level of as we move forward and we really expand and scale. To be able to invest into Afro Aloha.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, like as I'm on the island a little bit more, Amy and I will be coming up with some different concepts, hoping to amplify women, in particular Black women as well, and really helping to shape narrative and get us more comfortable with telling our own story. So I hope to bring some of those events here. And if you follow me back in the U.S., not in the U.S., in Texas is what I'm referring to. If you follow me back in Texas, specifically in Dallas, then you know about Loud and Clear Show, our live storytelling event. I'm hoping to do a Hawaii version of that. So
we need more of that too, and also too, just like there's not many platforms as far as like Black stories being documented. And so I look forward to working with you even in a film capacity of being able to document more of our stories out here.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I'm just so honored to have Dallas royalty.
Come on. Texas in the building.
In Honolulu with us right now. So, anything else that you want to add for the people?
No, that's a wrap, man. Stay true to you. Stay true to what you stand for. Be loud in all that you do and know that you got a group of people supporting you behind the scenes. And let's continue to amplify our voices and the stories that we share with each other.
You heard it here first. So, sis, are you loud enough yet?
Are you loud enough? Yeah. Bye.